Good morning, all of you. So, today we are going to do the assembly language basics. In the previous video lecture, we have learned what is assembly language. So, today we are going to learn about basic of assembly and assembly program structure. Now, the basic syntax of assembly. The assembly program is divided into three sections: data section, Bss section, and text section. The data section is the first section of the assembly program which is used to initialize the data. All the initialized data, constants, file names, buffers, and all your static data like your messages, your strings will come inside the data section. To define data section, you need to give the statement like section space dot data. So it will tell your assembler that this is the data section, and in this particular section you are going to get the data which is already being initialized. It may include file name, constant, and variables which are already initialized, and buffer. So generally we use keywords like DW, define word, DB, define byte, to define data into the data section. Now, the BSS section. This is the second section of the assembly program. It includes variable which are declared inside this section. It means in the BSS section, you are defining the variable which are not initialized. Generally, we use keyword like RESB, reserve byte, RESW, reserve word for initializing for defining the data into the BSS section. RESB stands for reserve byte. So it will reserve the byte for that particular data. It means the BSS section is just used for the variable, those variable which are not initialized. Now the third one and the most important section of the assembly code is the text section. It is the starting point or the point of execution for the program. From here the execution of the program begins. So to define the text section, you need to have the statement. You need to give three statements: global space underscore start, section space dot data, and underscore start. So here your assembly program execution will start. It means you are going to write your instruction and whatever operation you are going to perform on data in this particular section. It will be like a main of your program. Like in high level programming language, we write void main or int main, which is the execution point of the program. Likewise, in assembly, you have the global underscore start section dot text underscore start colon. That is the execution point of your program, and this section will contain your instruction. I'm going to define what is this executable instruction, directive, and macros are. The executable instruction or simply instruction tell the processor what to do. Each instruction consists of an operation or opcode. Every instruction will have some operation code, or we sometimes call it as the mnemonic. It means suppose we want to move some data, so the mnemonic for the move instruction will be MOV. If we want to compare some data, so then there will be CMP will be mnemonic, or you can call it as the opcode for that particular instruction. That is the instruction code or the instruction for the particular operation. Now each executable instruction generate one machine language instruction. So I have already told you that in assembly the equivalent machine code is being generated. The assembler directive or pseudo ops tell the assembler about various aspects of assembly process. These are non-executable and do not generate machine language instruction. Like we have one assembler directive which is EQU, which is for the equalizing some strings, or for calculating the length of the string we use the EQU directive. So for these things the machine language code is not generated. Now the third thing is the macros, which are basically a text substitutional mechanism where we are going to minimize the number of text line in our code, which we are going to see in the upcoming sessions. Now the syntax of assembly programming language. Here, this is the syntax of assembly programming language. Now you can see here there are some bracket being used. That brackets are optional because they may be there or they may not be there. These particular thing may be there or may not be there in your code. Just like first thing is label. Label are basically used to divide your assembly code, or for with the jump instruction you give the label and then you start the execution from that particular label. Okay, so that is kind of a optional thing in your assembly code. So your instruction may have the label or may not have the label. Your statement may have or may not have the label. So it is written in the bracket. Then this thing is not in the bracket. It is mnemonic, or we call it as the opcode. It means every assembly statement should have the instruction. So the instruction is the mandatory part. Then the operand. Some instruction may have some operand or some instruction may not have any operand. There are few instructions which do not take any operand, and there are some instructions which take one or more than one operand. So it is also optional. It may be there, it depends on your instruction. And then the comment section. In assembly, your comment start with the semicolon. Keep in mind, in the higher level programming language, generally we terminate our statement by semicolon. But in assembly, you need to start your comment with the semicolon.